really easy way to do trees in watercolor with just one brush. So we're going to use a few colors and just one brush and have some great pine trees. I actually love doing trees in watercolor because it's a little more groovy and friendly to it. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to help me with my crazy idea for an art class by making sure the camera is pointing at whatever I'm talking about. Because if you can see it and I can explain it, chances are you can do it at home. And that is the whole point of these classes, is that you don't just watch me paint, but you paint too, and you start feeling confident and amazing in your own paintings. That's like the whole point of this. So how this is going to work is I'm going to paint a thing, and then you're going to paint a thing, and I'm going to paint a thing, and you're going to paint a thing. And at the end of us doing that for a little bit, we're both going to have trees. And that'll be fun. And we could look at our cool graphics. We got swipies and dingies and texties and all kinds of stuff. Now, today's a very exciting day in painting our trees because Savile Fair, a division of McPherson, sent me a bunch of really cool Raphael brushes. And this is great because I've been wanting to try these. And I have here in the package, new brush smell and all of that, some Raphael soft aquas. This is like the big deal in that line. And also some of the Corels and all these. So I'm going to be testing these. I don't know what I think yet. I don't, because I haven't tested them. You are literally going to see my first impressions, and I have to decide what I'm going to start with, and I'm going to treat myself to the soft aqua because I'm spoiled.
I'm gonna
and that's what I'm going to do. What is it? This is a number 8 watercolor round, right? And you can just paint this particular lesson with a round watercolor brush. I'm cutting into it. And I'm gonna pull it out of its packaging. Oh, this is nice. It doesn't have crazy gummy anything. Now, here's what, this is about the size. When I say a brush is a number 8, we're talking about this size around here. When I'm saying that. This one is a 14 and has the snuggest, it didn't have any weird, terrible gummy on the packaging, but it has the snuggiest tube. Man, this tube is like, I will not let you go. So I'm going to wet the brush, I'm going to prime the brush, and we're going to find out. I'll tell you what I think, and I have other brushes here if I feel like I need a bigger brush or a smaller brush. I'm also going to be painting on the Artistico Fabriano. This one is also sent to me by Savile Fair. Why do I tell you that? I tell you that so you understand when, I don't know, there might be influence, but the truth is, you guys know me, I shop for all this stuff on Amazon anyways, but I'm very grateful to have it. So yay to the art material patronage. It's very helpful in my journey and in your journey, but I really do love Artistico. This is the extra white 140-pound cold press fully cotton paper on a block. I love blocks because they don't get wiggly and messy, and I got to find the keyhole on this block, which is very, you know what, John? Oh, there it is. It's on the corner. So this particular keyhole is on the corner. And I'm going to slide my little knife along. And what happens is it will release the page that I was on. Mm-hmm. And we will discover that that particular palette knife left a bunch of smudges all over my paper. But today is a class day. So don't do that. This is the one that I use, so I wouldn't use that. Normally it doesn't. I probably shouldn't have used the coated one. I probably should have used the stainless steel one. So I didn't know that until this moment. Coated one, no. Stainless steel one, yes. Now I will make a point of mentioning that every time we paint together. So I've got my watercolor brush, my 140-pound paper. That's the really important thing to pay attention when you're out buying yourself paper, is that it's 140 pound. I like cold press, hot press is fine, and I like it on a block because it doesn't wrinkle on me. Today's watercolors that I'm using are Nickel Azo Yellow, Phthalo Green, and Quinacridone Gold. Don't have that colors? Use like a brown and a green and a yellow. Whatever you have in your palette, it will work for this particular class. These are lovely colors. I'll say them again: Nickel Azo Yellow, Quinacridone Gold, Phthalo Green, but they're not necessary for this project. I'm going to come here and I'm going to see if a little water will clean up my smudges. Yeah, it does a little bit. I'll also find out if eraser will take them off. So when I'm starting something like this, I generally have to start with a faraway tree. And really, we make a sort of base tree color. So I'm going to wet out. You can see me adding water.
You're too big, Sherpa.
I'm too big?
What?
I'm so big in the world. I'm so famous and
You're
important and amazing
Tiny
that I cover my
Sherpa.
palette every minute of the day. This is watercolor. It's very serious. Come on, be serious here.
Tiny Sherpa.
Tiny me.
Tiny.
Maybe.
Tiny Sherpa. Me.
Whee! I would be so car sick if that actually happened to me. So I'm wetting out a little bit of the Phthalo Green, and I'll take some of my Quinacridone Gold and mix that in. And it's going to give me a little bit of a base green to work from. And then I have some yellow here, right, that I can go to. Now, I'm adding water and more, like a little bit of paint, because I don't want to have too much color on my brush. And I'm going to start here in the middle at the top. At the top of your trees, you don't really want to have too much thickness, so I find it's best to dance down. Oh, this is really nice. To dance down. I've really been wanting to try one of these. To dance down the paper. Remember that your watercolor will do a thing called color shift, which means as it dries, it will lighten. I'm just going to come down here. This is a distant tree. It will be a little bit lighter than the more upfront trees when they're a little more in the mist. Notice that I'm tapping the little toe of the brush up and down, and I'm bringing little branches out, little irregular little shapes. I'm not making a ladder, right? We're not climbing a ladder to go into the forest. We're growing a tree from the sky down. I know I'm going to come to about, let's say here in my painting, and I can even give myself a, John, I just splattered paint all over my paper. I'm going to give myself a little ground to finish at. This is so professional. If you do splatter paint on your paper, you just pick it up with a clean brush and a little bit of water, and you can see you can totally clean that up. And then if you're at all concerned past that, you can use a little paper as well. Looks like that gets up the weird smudges on my paper pretty well too. So good to know. It smudges up. So that was me getting my, you know what? We didn't show them me getting my spills up.
Oh, I was zoomed in because I had to run over there and adjust the camera because
let's show them again, because I had a little bit of a spill, and then I cleaned it up, and they didn't get to see that. So let's pretend spill again. I'm going to come here and I'm going to pretend spill. Oh no, I pretend spilled.
The camera's zooming in out of control.
Okay, I'm going to come here. My brush is damp with water, and I'm just going to come and lift it up. That's why you use a good paper.
Oh yeah, it just
comes back up. That's what I did. I had a little bit of splatter hit my paper, and that's how I cleaned it.
Sorry, I was.
No, it's okay. I was
adjusting the camera.
It's important. They have to see what's going on.
Abandon my station.
You can do that. This little grove of trees had squirrels and chipmunks and all kinds of like little wonderful creatures that could be living in it. And I will come down here. As I come down, I can get a little yellow into my paint. And kind of, maybe even at this stage, warm it a bit. See how we do? Going to give the tree a little personality, a little more than just a fan brush.
Ooh.
Not that there's anything wrong with a fan brush. And you can do a fan brush technique with your watercolor. You really can. And just come down here and kind of fill this in. I know I have trees layering over it, even one right on top of it, so I don't have to be that concerned. I just want to make sure that I've got a narrow little top, and as I come down, I'm going to add more quin to it. It gets a little bit wider here at the base. We're going to make a really cool baseline for it too, but we gave ourselves some ground for the trees to grow out of. So we could see that in our mind, as you do. Here, and make sure some branches are dotted out. See how we're just dotting those out?
I see.
We're not making little even rows or ladders, little rungs. We're creating an overall contour shape. That's pretty chill. And because we have several trees sort of blended in here together, we don't necessarily have to be too stressed on ourselves about that. I'm going to come here and get a little more of my green and my Quinacridone Gold. And let's make a small little fellow right here. A little darker. What am I doing? Bring a little trunk up. You can even show some of the trunk and some of the little trees if you want to. We're just bringing it there. Toe of the brush, tapping up and down. The branches up tight, up top are more tight and close to the tree. And as they come down, you know, they kind of come out a little bit. They're looking for some sunlight, aren't they? Maybe get a little brown in here.
Those sneaky trees
They
always
are.
trying
They
to
like
get
their
the
sunlight.
sun.
They like their sunlight. And come along here and even it's fun where there was some water there because it blends up into it a bit.
A bit.
A bit. And we can come along this. And I like to have the two little grades of it. Ah, there, it happened again. What it is that I have this tall cup, and when I flick the brush out, the brush is juicy.
Oh, there
Getting
we
used
see.
to a new brush.
It juiced.
So whenever you have a new tool, there's always stuff. Like it's a juicier brush than I had before. I don't have to really worry because things are easy to lift.
Do you hear that, Pierre? Your brush is juicy.
The brush is juicy. It is a juicy brush. Which is wonderful in watercolor. And it's holding a lot of water and it's carrying it, so I'm okay with that. I'll be used to it in like 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden this brush and I will be best friends. However, I'm going to use my paper towel now to pull off extra water instead of doing a flick method. I'm going to go ahead and get a little of my green and yellow together.
Now, that's something that you kind of look for in a watercolor brush is to hold that kind of water.
You really need it to. A watercolor brush needs to hold water. So you've got a toe and a belly and a heel. In a watercolor brush, it's a little bit like a calligraphy pen. There's a well that holds all the pigment. That's here in the belly, and you need a nummy brush. You need a brush with a nice belly and a fine toe like a little ballerina. Because you don't want to lose your toe.
Gotta stay sharp.
You got to stay sharp. You do got to stay sharp.
On the toe.
On the toe. Come out here and bring a little green out.
Otherwise, you might do a belly flop.
I don't know about that, but
You could paint with the side of the brush, I guess.
yeah, you really can. Come along here and maybe a little more of the brown into it. You can see I'm giving it little personalities, and you can even paint out a little brush.
So everyone's like, what is that brush? Where did it come from?
Oh, okay. This is the Raphael Soft Aqua. Where it came from was Savoir Faire, a division of McPherson's. You guys know Pierre. He does the contests on Instagram. And I'm always like, go enter, win art supplies. Win all the art supplies. He and they sent me a bunch of stuff. And Andrew sent me a bunch of stuff to test out that I asked to test out, but it was sent to me. So now you know my influence.
You were inquiring minds. Our minds were inquirious about them.
Yeah, I actually really was like, what is going on? And I wanted to know. I'm wetting out a little bit more of the Quinacridone Gold, which you could just use whatever brown you have. You're just using a green, a yellow, and a brown. And you can see this one, it got really like misty, didn't it?
There's a little kid in me that whenever he says Quinacridone Gold, I think of Velveeta.
Liquid gold. It is, though. Don't kid yourself. Quinacridone Gold is the jam. While this paper's still wet, I may add a little here. It's just kind of fun to do. You can always bring a little bit of a trunk up, even though you're going to paint over it.
Thank you, guys, everybody who's all the patrons and everyone who's supporting us with stars and super chat and stickers.
Much. Wait, do we have that going on, don't we?
We have multiple platforms of support for patronage. Thank you. Barbara, if you want to know more about our patronage, you can go to theartsherpa.com/patron. And we have a new little page that'll tell you all about it.
That's a little clearer than the last page. Basically, all levels are one level. Pick your budget.
Yes.
That's the short of it. And then everybody gets everything.
All of the doulars are good doulars and help us keep the lights on. So
But I
thank
didn't
you.
have to buy art supplies.
No.
Because they came to me
Which
in a
also,
magic box, which I will keep sharing with you.
believe me, not having to buy as many art supplies
I'm not. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
definitely
Some
does
things
help with
need
the
to
art.
be tested, and it's my job to test them.
Yes,
I have to go buy them because they're new, and I need to know what they are.
but half of them aren't even art supplies. They're like, but they could be used as art supplies. To which I'm like, yeah, probably.
We did do that.
Yeah.
We recently did buy a bunch of stuff that is not technically art supplies to see if they can be turned into art supplies.
I was like, sure, yeah, go ahead. That's, give it a whirl. We'll see what happens. And you know what? It's pretty cool. So you guys you'll get to see it soon.
I'm coming up in the middle while everything's a little wet and just adding a little personality to that tree. Look how much personality that little watercolor tree has now, doesn't it?
It has as
It's
much
a lot.
personality.
As it could possibly have. And come over here. This one over here, let's make it super dark. Let's bring a lot of our Quinacridone Gold and a lot of our green together. It makes a very super dark color. I can maybe start with a lighter top. I often like to put in a lighter top because the trees up top have a little bit of sunlight on them, don't they? Even if they're a dark tree, they do. Now I'm just coming down and creating a very fine little top, and I'll pull little branches out. How do you learn to paint these? Well, the first thing that I would suggest that you do is you just go online and go on any photo reference website and go pine trees and practice painting their silhouettes. That's the outer shape that they make. Practice making those little silhouettes. If you want to get out of that ladder stage where you're building ladders, chutes and ladders with your pine trees.
Tammy loves this. And Rin says, everything is an art supply. # artist problems.
Oh my gosh, I know. I am often like, could I paint with that? Could I make a mark with that? Could that be something? Could that be storage for art material? What could it be?
And I want to give an art high five to Kim, who just even considering supporting us is what we appreciate. So,
Oh, thank you so much. And there's all kinds of ways to support what we do. Put up with my short videos. Don't unsubscribe when you see them.
share
them,
comment,
like them, comment.
ring the bell.
Say,
do the platform thing.
why are you making them? Go on TikTok and follow me there. And be like, why are you TikToking? I'm like, because I have to.
Because the TikToks made us do it.
Because I'm going to confuse the Chinese government with the TikTok behavior. They're going to be like, what's going on? Sorry. Internet nonsense. No, we are making some short form content. Be understanding with us while we experiment with different types of video and art expression. We're going to keep doing the stuff you guys love. But as artists, we have to do different things. Of course, there's the traditional ways you guys might think of. I'm just continuing down, and I'm going to keep widening the tree out. As you can see, tapping this little brush out, making small and regular marks. Just share the videos, tell your friends, oh my gosh,
I got
this
an idea.
lady teaches art for free. That's another way of doing it.
If you'd like to get some notifications when we do this, disappear, little cinnamon.
Bye. You can sign up for our text notifications.
And you got to send the message, the Art Sherpa, to the phone number 33222. All one
Now,
word.
it's North
the Art Sherpa.
America, but we're fixing it.
It's the reason why we need to sign up is we've got new things on SMSing.
Yeah, we're going to be
And
global in a minute.
The technologies are technologing,
They are.
making things go in that world.
This tree is a lot darker than its little tree friends, as it should be. Look at it go. And aren't they building up a little nice little cluster of trees? All on the toe of the brush. You don't have to have my palette. You don't have to have my paint. You don't have to have my brush. I will tell you what I'm using because it helps you as a student, right? It absolutely does help you as a student to know what I'm using and why. Maybe you live in a place that these materials are not available. Maybe your budget doesn't allow for these materials. There is always another kind of brush, another paint, another material that will work. It's never only one in art. It's many. It's not like Highlander.
What, it's like I'm
going to keep adding some dark green and brown to the bottom, deepening this.
much like other artists, I am an art supply hoarder.
Sure.
They just look different. They're gears and brass fittings and, stuff. Because you know what? I'm going to need that 3/4 to 5/8 valve assembly someday, and I don't want to throw it away. So, knowing that this stuff is like that, I try to look at unused supplies as unearned experience points.
I'm going to come along the bottom here and just make sure that these are kind of dark at the bottom. And that's just to talk a little bit about the shadow in them, right? We're glazing up. We're just adding a little shadow.
Very shadowy.
Very shadow. Coming over here. Doot, doot, doot. Oh, look, there's a grove. They're a little tree family. Actually, they're tree daughters. They're tree mothers and tree daughters. Sometimes I like to rinse out or reset my brush. You can always see how much pigment is in your brush by dragging it along the paper towel. That's very, very helpful to you. I'm going to come over here and make another little tree. By now, you figured out there's kind of a little formula. There's a little jam here, a little bit light at the top. So I've had one tall tree and a couple trees that are different heights from that. I need to then make this tree a little shorter because trees grow at different heights. They're not like grass. They're not like mowed grass. And see, I'm just touching this little brush out, making little short strokes, aren't I? So what? Answer all the questions. Ask him. I'm totally happy to answer.
Should the front trees, mountains, etc., be darker than the front closer ones?
Yes, they should. When you're talking about atmospheric perspective, very, very often, not always, but very, very often, things that are in the distant become less focused. They're a little more blurred. They're less bright. They're a little more grayed out and distant and misty. And as objects become closer, they become in starker contrast. Their colors either become more saturated or darker.
Like fog. Like fog.
Like fog.
Like things like that tree could be a little bit in fog.
Well, and things will tend to be in the forest. There's a lot of light and dust and things that are around trees that cause quite a bit of atmospheric perspective. And you can come down. If you're having trouble getting a trunk, one thing you can do is you come down a little bit like that, kind of beginning a trunk, and then build a few little branches out. What it is about, much like clouds, every tree needs to have a little personality. So
have you ever heard of crown shyness?
I have heard of crown shyness. That's where trees, and they don't really, on the last 5 documentaries I watched, they said that they don't know why they do this. But what it is that when you lay on the ground and look up at trees, the trees all have almost like a puzzle pattern of space, a little gap between the tops of the trees called crown shyness. Now, maybe that allows for nutrients to come down. Maybe it helps the trees not spread disease, though.
And maybe not break each other. There's like a whole bunch of really good theories on it. But
yeah,
I thought it was super cool.
So when you're laying down, they cluster together, but they also create space. So you've got to kind of reflect that in there. Another thing I used to talk about a lot on my acrylic channel, and I want to talk about here, is that objects don't just have a physical shadow where light is blocked. They have an environmental shadow, and that's where maybe underneath a tree grass wouldn't grow, or leaves might fall, or things are affected by what's around them, creating kind of like a shadow or impact in nature. That's some of what you're creating. Right now, what you're doing is practicing with your brush and practicing just creating the contour shapes of trees. And you're also working wet into wet here, and you're learning how to make your watercolor paint create value and color in a fun way. Go a little green and a little brown. It's quite dark. Look how dark that is.
Very dark.
Very dark. How dark can you go with trees? Pretty dark, because you can silhouette them as well. Now, these are a little bit distant trees, and we know that they're distant trees because the forward-facing branches aren't painted in definition. That means they're far enough back that what we're dealing with is their silhouette.
Hmm.
So these are distant trees. Up close trees, you would see forward-facing branches, and you would see the contrast of each individual plant structure within the overall plant structure. So you might paint this if you were doing a landscape that had a little bit of moody atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, these would be more how you would paint those little trees. But it's a way to start thinking about it. Notice, you know, things that they're very fine up at the top, that the branches build out at the bottom. And we're just working the toe of the brush. If I need to come back and get a little brown, and just make sure that there's some dimensionality, though. Now, just to be fun.
Super dimensional. Ooh, little grasses.
Well, I got to test my brush, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's some brush testing happening.
Every once in a while, you got to test a new brush. And
Are
so
you just playing around there?
I just need to see how, you know, like how it fine lines out. And what I'll have to do when I'm working on a new brush, generally I sit down and just doodle for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just to really know it. It's a very rare thing where I would just sit down with an unknown brush to me and be like, I think I'm going to paint a painting.
There's
with this tool I've never used before.
There was a high level of trust there.
Yeah, there really was.
I think in both directions, to be honest.
No, yeah, there is a high level of trust in both directions. I am friends with Pierre, and I very much like Andrew, and I love everybody over at the team of Savoir-Faire, and I like the team over at McPherson.
Oh, no, I mean,
so I have that is my influence. I like them. But when I like somebody and they're terrible at their job, you just never hear me talk about them.
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying. It's like it takes. You have to be pretty confident in your product to be able to send it to somebody who's like, yeah, I'm just going to open it up live and use it. So,
yeah,
be ready for that.
And we let them know. We're like, okay.
And they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
If you feel like you would like to do that. And I'm like, I do feel like I would like to do that. You know what I feel like I would like to do. I would like to do that. And they're like, okay.
And so I think that's pretty cool.
Coming down here and adding kind of like a little trunk. And I'm going to build kind of backwards a bit just so that we have maybe a little of a trunk that we see. This is one where we talk about trunk. I'm
trunk you see.
I feel like this is the one where we talk about the trunks because I'm doing a Friends marathon with my kids.
What?
Yeah, well, they're making a remake, and so I had to watch something with the kids that was child appropriate.
And you chose Friends.
I chose Friends.
There's some irony there.
Childish appropriate. Well, it wasn't gonna be more Rick and Morty, which is what they wanted.
That is a distinctly Gen X issue. It's like, yeah, Rick and Morty, that's a child show.
No, it is not. And good show though, and it's my dad. My dad is Morty. You know, well, my dad would be exactly Morty, except he has religion. But other than that, exactly the same.
And, you know, somehow it's like Invader Zim. There's another good kid show.
Now, that one actually I think was kid appropriate. Didn't bother me.
It was kiddish appropriate.
And then add a little bit of green down at the bottom. So can you guys see how we got a bunch of different little personalities happening on all of our little trees?
I see it.
We've created little structures, and you can come in if you're like, man, I want this to have, you know, any sort of different personality. You can still come back and add shadows and structure as if the tree has layers, like ogres do.
Suzanne says, I would love to learn how to paint. Do I have to put a primer on my canvas before painting?
Not in acrylic or in watercolor, not at all. The only time you use a primer in acrylic is if you have a preference for a different smoothness of surface. Sometimes artists will put a primer on an acrylic canvas because they're doing portraits or they're doing something where a very smooth surface is necessary and they decided not to get a board. Oil painters will sometimes have to prime because they can run into more raw or untreated linens in canvas than you will as an acrylic. Almost all acrylic canvases, unless you go to a very specialty store, comes with gesso on it. Then you have to choose, do I want more gesso or less gesso? So It's just very optional and not necessary. Something you can do, not something you have to do. In watercolor, especially with good paper, it's open up and start painting. That's one of the things, like, even before you do the paint or anything else, get the good paper. Get a good 140-pound paper, because 80-pound paper or paper that's too light for watercolor is going to make your experience miserable. And you can kind of paint with some less expensive watercolors, but it's tougher to paint with paper that's wrinkling and buckling. And I show this every time, and then the reason I tear things off on the following show is you guys can now see the apple. It doesn't have any buckles. It's completely smooth. Right? You know, it's stretched. But right now on my trees, because we did the wet applications, I wonder if we can see. Can you see the buckling there?
A little bit.
It's a little. There we go. Push, 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 push. There's a little buckle. If you were on a light paper, it would be like, wait. And it wouldn't stretch out. But because this is on a block and it's 100% cotton, not only is the watercolor going to keep softening and become interesting into the painting, not only is that happening, but also it's going to stretch back on this block and be ready for framing again. You can get up to 300-pound watercolor paper, and some watercolor instructors are known to say, you must paint 300 pound. Must is a fantastically overly stated word. You can, when you're ready. Those sheets are very expensive individually. Those blocks are very expensive individually. 140-pound is a great starting place. Smooth, hot press or cold press is fine. Cold press is bumpy, hot press is smooth. It's really about your preferences.
So after you upgraded paper, then you upgraded your brush, you think?
Yeah. And remember, unlike acrylic, where the brush kind of wears out from the painting experience, because acrylic has a high pH and it's very damaging to brushes, especially natural hairs, a brush like this, your initial investment is a forever investment. I don't know if that's like golf clubs, but it seems like golf clubs last a long time, so I'm going to use that analogy, but without any actual information to back it up.
I have always used golf clubs because I feel like...
Not like cell phones.
I can't believe that the technology of a piece of metal on a stick has evolved so much that the one 20 years ago isn't as good as the one today.
Okay.
I'm not playing that level.
Skis certainly, okay. On brushes, it's pretty much the same. You know how a Bernina is kind of like always a Bernina? And they work good over years to come. You don't really get rid of your Bernina. You just might get more Bernina and end up with too many Bernina. Some things are just engineered or made really well. A fantastically made brush that you care for. You don't leave it in water to soak. You don't leave it in paint on it. You take care of it. You rinse it out. This is what you do after a painting session, because we're done, right? What you would do is you'd rinse it out really thoroughly, get all the paint out of it. You don't even have to take a watercolor brush to soap every time.
Yep.
Right? I might.
By the way, you can buy Sherpa soap both on our website and on Amazon.
Okay. So I'm going to really rinse it out, and then you would test it on, a paper towel. Then when you're finished, you're going to wring out the extra water, finger shape, and lay flat to dry. And it will be ready for you next time. That's all you have to do with that brush. I'm going to sign this with pencil then. I'm going to sign with pencil because I finger shape my brush. Okay, there we go. It's signed in some kind of way.
So real quick, Barbara is new at watercolor, and she's like,
hi, Barbara.
Anything I need to know about painting on rocks with watercolor?
Yes, you need to use Daniel Smith's acrylic watercolor ground. No, it's not acrylic. It's the Daniel Smith watercolor ground. They do have it at Michael's. I have an instruction sheet on how to do it, but they also come with instructions. And the instructions are on the website. So if you don't have my sheet, you're not like...
You won't get lost.
Up Sheets Creek. You're not there. You're okay because it's on their website and it's in the product. But basically, you do 3 or 4 coats, allowing curing between, and then you can paint anything watercolor. And then I like to use a triple thick, Rust-Oleum triple thick for sealing, so that it's really sealed at the end and can withstand being outdoors. There's some really good testing videos out there I've seen. There was one guy that just put everything on it and stuck it in the pool to see how it worked out. And it was pretty easy to see the outcome. Like Mod Podge was very water soft. That's why we don't recommend Mod Podge as a sealer in general, because it can be soft and re-wet up with water sometimes. But triple thick by Rust-Oleum is a great way to finish. There's also outdoor sealers that are made for it, and it goes right over everything once it's all cured up. And I have some examples of watercolor rocks that I've done, and they're really fun. We could do one here.
Ooh,
do you want to do one here?
I want to rock it.
Do you want me to show you how to do a watercolor rock here? I don't mind. I'd be happy to. We're just grooving over here in our channel. I'll do it live too. I'm just crazy brave like that. I'll do it live. No fancy cuts, no blends, no fast forward. You will actually see what's happening, and I'll talk to you about all the little things that you might want to know about those products and using rocks and painting it with watercolor. Be like a little hour class. It'll be fun. All right, I'll put one up on the schedule.
Put it up.
I'm going to assume you say yes because you guys are always so up for it. Looks like metallic chicken is also going to be a lesson. If you haven't seen the chicken, you check out the shorts videos on YouTube or you can see it on my TikTok. If you're on TikTok, I have a very tiny TikTok. It's even smaller than my Twitter, as if that's possible. Smaller than my Twitter.
It's okay.
I'm not dramatic enough for Twitter, so I can't really grow because I just don't want to get in a big fight online. I just want to share happy pictures of cute animals and art. So it's not that divisive.
To be on TikTok, you got to have moves like Jagger. You got to be like, I got, I got moves like Pee Wee Herman.
I seriously do. There's my TikTok. Anyways, so you can see the watercolor there, and I'm going to put him up on the schedule. He is done with the Paul Rubens watercolors, which are metallic. And then some I found on Etsy. I like to do him with that. And Fabriano black paper. So I use this set, which is the Paul Rubens, and I like it. I've been using them for a while. And one brush as well. So I'll put him up on the schedule. I'll put a watercolor rock up on the
Yeah, chicken short. It was good.
Chicken short was good.
See
chicken wing.
Boom. Go
Hot
see.
dog and bologna.
Tell me what you think you like.
I would love that. And yes, it's a minute. I know. But we still make hour-long videos, so it sort of averages out, right?
There we go.
We're actually 3-hour tour. That's what we've been on the Acrylic channel is a 3-hour tour. But so we are not on a 3-hour tour over here since we're basically done with this. If you had any questions that I did not answer in the live, put them in the comments and I will answer them. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at a watercolor pad really soon. Bye-bye.